Hey, I'm Quentin, and this story starts in 7th grade when I insulted one of my classmates. I won't tell you the word I used, but it was a very bad word. And unfortunately, my teacher, Mr. Pesnick, was listening and gave me detention. I told him I was sorry, but I couldn't help it because I had Tourette syndrome. I just watched that South Park episode where Cartman pretends to have Tourette's and insults everyone, and I figured it might get me out of detention. Well, Mr. Pesnick had never heard of Tourette's, so I had to explain that people with the syndrome can't always control what they say, so they sometimes say bad words at inappropriate moments. Of course he didn't believe I actually had Tourette's, but I skipped detention anyway, which is why he called up my parents. My dad picked up and I love my dad. He's the coolest guy in the world. And when Mr. Pesnick told him I claimed to suffer from Tourette's, my dad immediately said, "Oh, yeah, he does. We just got the diagnosis, and apparently he has a very strong form of the syndrome." His mom and I were devastated when we heard the news. It's really tragic. Suddenly, I had the freedom to say whatever I wanted, and I was going to make the most of it. When I walked into class the next morning, I saw Mr. Pesnick, I looked straight at him, and said a very unpleasant word. My classmates were shocked, and Mr. Pesnick went crazy. He said, "We're going to the principal now, and you're going to be expelled." But I just shrugged and said, "I have Tourette syndrome, and if you expel me, my dad will sue you for discrimination of a mentally disabled person." Mr. Pesnick was speechless, because he knew I had the upper hand, and if he said one thing wrong, he might actually lose his job for mistreating me. For the next few weeks, I had fun insulting Mr. Pesnick, and at one point, he suggested that I should go to a special needs school, but I told him I'd rather continue to be one of his students. However, after a while, I got bored of screaming insults during class, and I stopped doing it. Of course, I had to make up an excuse, so I told my teachers I was finally on medication for my Tourette's. Looking back, I feel bad for faking my condition, because there are real people suffering from it. It was extremely immature. I lied about having a disorder just so I could get away with calling my teacher names. I've made a fool out of Mr. Pesnick and caused him a great deal of stress. If you've ever bullied someone like this, I want you to know it's not cool and it's not clever. I enjoyed the power I had over my teacher, but if everyone behaved like me, there would be a lot of jerks walking around. That's why I stopped doing it. And as soon as I graduate, I'll come clean and apologize to Mr. Pesnick, because what I was doing was inexcusable. I just hope he will accept my apology. Thank you for listening to my story, and please subscribe to this channel.